I hope no one thinks, even on an investing podcast, that the goal of life is to have the biggest bank account. I truly hope that's the case.
What's sucky is that is the goal of life, and I know I'm never going to have it. What does that do for my psyche?
This podcast contains the arguably witty banter of two friends, Skippy and Dougals, that like to debate about investing. The content is intended to be entertaining and for informational purposes only, not investment advice. You should do your own research and consult a financial professional before using any of the information in this podcast, and especially before investing.
Welcome back to Skippy and Dougals. We are here with an episode that is jam-packed. I'm talking NBA Jam, You're on Fire packed. I'm talking Def Jam 6 packed. It's going to be fun today. We're discussing a clip from Chamath, just mostly because we just haven't poken fun. Is poking a word? I don't know.
Making stuff up. I'm going to be poking fun at you.
There it is. Then we're going to discuss Tim Cook leaving on top. There's this tweet that Ramit Sethi put out that is an interesting discussion around investing and timing. There's a new fund that AngelList is putting out. We're going to discuss that. And I think that's about it. But that's a lot of stuff. It could get quite meaty. Let's see where it goes. And for a vegetarian, that's problematic. As always, please hit us up, skippydougals@gmail.com. Listener mail, we really love it. And go to skippydougals.com for all your Skippy Dougals questions. I think it's time to play some Chamath clip. Shall we?
And you're just going to ride, I mean, you said 2 or 3 times higher than where it is now. You're just going to ride that wave?
Scott, I don't understand why people are so focused on selling things that work. Let's just, I'll make up a number. Let's just say I owned $1 billion of Tesla stock. If I sold it, now I have $1 billion problem. What do I do with that money? What about if it was 100 million? What about if it was just 10,000, 10 billion? It doesn't matter what the number is. The point is that when things are working, you're paid to stay with people that know what they're doing. And this is a guy who has consistently been one of the most important entrepreneurs in the world. And so why bet against him? It's the same thing with Bezos. Why bet against him? And there are a handful of other people. Anthony Noto, who we just talked to today, is yet another person. You get behind these people who have incredibly strong character, who know what they're doing, who aren't going to bend to short-term profits, and who are just going to drive the train for 10 or 20 years and make the world a better place. Get behind them. The best way to summarize this, by the way, is a friend of ours who we mentioned earlier, Bill Gurley, has this great phrase: when the music's on, you got to dance. And so these guys are dancing. They are in rhythm. They're in flow. Let them do their thing. Get behind them. Don't sell a share.
You still have a sizable stock position in Tesla?
No.
You sold it?
Yeah. When? Over the last few years, we've sort of, not last year, it's like really in the last years.
It's classic. Tale as old as time.
That's why I don't go on CNBC, first and foremost. Tesla's current price to earnings, I know those clips are old, right?
Yeah. And let's actually, before you go in, let's give, because it's hard to tell exactly what's happening in the video from just the audio. So the first part of that clip was from January of 2021. And so this was when, if y'all remember, in 2020, Tesla took a just rocket ship level 8x, 9x. It was something like that. It was up over the course of 2020. So this is early 2021. And you have Chamath talking about how he's going to ride it for another 2, 3x, is at least according to what the reporter was saying.
Yeah,
I don't know when
this never sell because it's a bet on a visionary founder. Like he's saying price doesn't matter, so there's no reason to sell. And if you sell, you're an idiot. That's what I heard anyway.
Yep. There you go. Okay, now continue. I just wanted to make sure people understood that.
Like, just valuations matter is my whole thing. Is it Tesla's current price to earnings from Morningstar as of this week is 345,
which is higher than their price per share.
Not quite, but their normalized price to earnings might be 200. It doesn't make sense. I'm going to take this a different way because throwing shade is kind of fun, but we can, the thing that bothers me more than anything else is what he did there with dropping a Bill Gurley reference of like, oh, well, this smart guy who has proven that he's great at getting out when the music stops.
Yep.
It's like people do this with Buffett all the time. It's like I can buy Tesla. If I say something Buffett said, I'm allowed to buy Tesla at a stupid valuation, even though Buffett would never do that. I don't think Bill Gurley, I know Bill Gurley would not say that. Sorry, that's too strong. I cannot imagine Bill Gurley buying into that logic. Why do you drop his name?
I want to start quoting people for things that they most likely said at one point in time, but may not even be famous. It's like Warren Buffett once said, I'm going to buy this stock. So today, I'm going to go buy this stock. I agree with your point of, do you take these things fully out of context and fully out of the mindset and philosophy of the individuals and just ride it for whatever you want? This goes to, so I don't know Chamath. We talk about him a good amount on here, mostly for funsies. I don't know the guy. But he did his thing at Facebook, ran the growth team, made a bunch of money. He had his venture capital firm. I hope that made some money. It kind of went down in flames at the end, but I don't know if he made money from it or not. Cool. Like, step back and don't go on CNBC and just make broad proclamations. Like, there's just not a reason for it outside of attention, I suppose.
That's the thing. I don't begrudge the guy. He's made more money than I've made. Great. At this point, he has made the decision to be a public figure that contradicts himself a lot. That's fun to laugh at. That's what I enjoy.
That's it. I will never sell this stock. Oh yeah, I sold the stock. It reminds me of that the Rick James clip from Chappelle's show. When he's like, I didn't put my feet up on his couch. I mean, I might put a couple feet up on the couch, but anyway. All right, so that was just a little fun of games to start. Anything
Big
else?
News, Chappelle show may be coming back. There's rumors.
No.
Yeah.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
There's some rumors.
Okay, well, we shall see.
We heard it on the Skippy and Diggle show first.
Okay. All right, now let's transition, reach into that fishbowl, and talk Tim Cook. If you have not seen, Tim Cook has officially announced, because it was rumored like 3-4 months ago, something like that, a few months ago. It was rumored this is about to happen, but he's officially announced that after the summer, he is going to step down as Apple CEO. And the person that runs, John Turney, I think is his name, the person who runs hardware engineering at Apple is going to take over. So a couple things that came out. There's the memo that he sent to Apple employees, which I think is just a good little memo. That's it. It's like short, sweet, and simple. He sent out to Apple employees. But mostly what I want to discuss is, aside from the sweet kicks that he had in the picture in the memo that he sent out, I'd like to discuss his time at Apple and the debate over whether or not he's a bunch of nonsense, which is what I saw in the tweet. Which let's talk about whether.
Wait, I didn't even. I'm unaware of this. People are questioning his legacy.
Yeah. So here you go. So this is just in this one. I'm sure there's lots of tweets about this and whatnot, right? So this is just in this one tweet that put the memo out there. Here we go. Let me read a couple of the comments here. And these are the top. It's like what's ranked as, what are they, like the most relevant or whatever comments. Okay, the ones on top. He regrets his decision. That's talking about Steve Jobs naming Tim Cook.
Goodness.
Yeah. He regrets his decision. You have ridden on his iPhone coattails for 15 years. Innovation will occur when you, as Microsoft Steve Ballmer, Apple's counterpart, leave and are replaced like some I don't know what that means, but people tweet what they tweet. Microsoft current CEO. Okay, basically what he's saying is, if you look at what the Ballmer to Nadella transition, Ballmer, according to what people throw out, didn't do much for the value of Microsoft, et cetera, missed like mobile in the right way, all this other stuff. Then you have Nadella that took over, stock takes off. They're saying that Tim Cook is Apple's version of Steve Ballmer in that one. Then there's this one. Tim Cook was the equivalent of Ballmer for Microsoft. Same thing. Great business operator, succeeding founders, but lacking on new innovation during their tenure. Then there's someone accusing him of putting an AI-generated image in there because the swoosh is backwards, not knowing that there are just like
because they don't know kicks. Yeah,
they don't. Yeah. So there's anyway.
Okay, well, I've got to interrupt briefly. I I learned something new today. I think Dougall's is being influenced by the Russian bots. I think most of this is complete garbage. There's not even people behind it. But
a Russian bot would never say like some like.
Let's say there's an active debate happening. I thought when you mentioned this in the pre-show meeting, I thought the debate was going to be, is he the greatest of all time or not? Like something in that realm. Because it's the stock performance during his leadership is absolutely incredible. He grew the company from 350 billion market cap to 4 trillion. I can pull out a bunch of stats, but basically just know it's off the charts crazy good. Apple loyalty which means it basically means if users of the product consider themselves, if the next product they buy will be in the ecosystem or not, right? If you have a laptop, will you buy an iPhone? If you have an iPhone, will you buy whatever, an Apple TV, et cetera? It's at all-time highs, and it's more than 90%. It's like 92% or something. Building an ecosystem that folks are that loyal to. No one at this point, they're no longer the plucky startup, right? You don't necessarily want to be taking risk with the brand new products because you have a user base of hundreds of millions of people. Maybe I'd have to look, maybe going into billions of people that love your ecosystem. How could I wouldn't claim he's the best ever, but I certainly wouldn't be throwing shade his way.
No. So to throw out some numbers to put this back in folks' recall. So in August 2011, that is when Steve Jobs officially stepped down as CEO and put Tim Cook in as CEO. Then Steve Jobs passed away a couple months later in October of 2011. So this is almost 15 years, but by the time he retires, it should be 15 years. During that time period, revenue for the company has grown by 303%. Profit has grown by 354%. So that's 4x and 4.5x. Mm-hmm. The value of Apple has increased by 1,251% from a valuation perspective. That did not happen. I'm not even throwing shade at Ballmer here. I'm just saying if you're going to compare him to someone, at least like have them be in the same
nothing under Ballmer.
Realm.
Yeah.
Which is not even, and there's a lot of, even for Ballmer's credit or in Ballmer's defense, there's a lot that can be said that at least in Nadella's early time period, Ballmer made a bunch of investments that started to pay off. Mm-hmm. So whatever, regardless of that, let's just talk about Tim Cook. So those are just some numbers, a reminder of when he took over and some numbers of what happened. Other element that I think is interesting here is that people are talking about how, or at least in this one stratechery, whatever it is, post, he's discussing how there's the 0 to 1 concept that Peter Thiel made famous of the capability for someone to take something from 0, so a company from starting point, right, where you're nothing, to 1, 0 to 1, is a different skill set oftentimes than it can be to take something from 3 to 4, 5 to 6, whatever it is, once it becomes.
Always, yeah.
And what this piece says is that at least for the newest product at that point in time, which was the iPhone, Steve Jobs had just taken it from 0 to 1. And ordinarily, a founder would then have taken it from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and then someone else steps in, and then things start to decline. They're like, but what happened here was Tim Cook he didn't say ride the coattails. He was just like, he took it over earlier than most post-founders would be able to take it over. Cool. So now what happens? What I think is missing, one of the things that's missing, is you can say that someone is a great CEO or a bad CEO just without any context, in absolute terms. And then you can look at context and say, was it not brilliant to have someone like this, who is, no one is debating that I've seen, an incredible operator and builder of systems? Mm-hmm. Like, this could have been the perfect time for him to run Apple. And then stepping down, he also might be like, 1, I'm just older, 15 years older. But 2, maybe I'm not the person to take it for the next 15 years. So like, let me step down and just give the man a benefit of the doubt. I think if nothing else, he deserves that. He joined Apple almost 30 years ago and has done nothing but incredibleness since he started. Like nothing
Yeah, well, so really important questions for you. Do you think he gets a free U2 album as a retirement gift?
I think he gets a free whatever he wants as a retirement gift.
I think you missed the joke, Diggles. I think you missed the joke. I want to read a paragraph from his, maybe not even a paragraph, a few sentences from his departing letter. I want to offer my profound gratitude to the best executive team on the planet for your friendship and your brilliance over the years. I want all of you, every member of the Apple team, to know how much it meant for me to work with you. It goes on. I don't know if these are completely hollow. Like, I haven't had beers with Tim Cook, right?
Yep.
That level of warmth and appreciation is pretty rare in business these days. Assuming that is truthful and honest.
Yep.
That's incredible. A company of this size, the second most valuable company in the world, to have the leader kind of speak with that honesty and respect to all team members, you know, the people making $19 an hour, is really, really cool. I just feel like it's a lot more rare than it used to be, and I like it. I wish I think there's a ton of companies that pretend they call everybody family and whatever, and they don't care at all. But here's where I'd like to wrap with this. I don't really care about his legacy as a CEO. I think he did good. But to truly judge that, I think you have to wait 5 years, because you don't know if this is the flip side of a great CEO, or someone that seems like a great CEO at the time they leave that actually probably wasn't, is Jack Welch, who pulled so much revenue forward to basically just fake the numbers.
Yeah, he put Jeff Immelt in a terrible position. The company went on a
15-year decline.
I will also say that GE didn't do that. GE did well under Jack Welch, but it wasn't dominating under Jack Welch either.
Maybe there was a time, like I think 2004, 2006, where people talked like GE was a no-brainer investment where you could never lose money, and that was the end of it being a no-brainer investment.
I think that Jack Welch created a narrative, and the stock did well. I'm not saying the stock did not do well, but it was something, from my memory, it was something like it beat the S&P 500 by like 2x or 3x, like something that is great. Like that is solid, but not like 10x. You know what I'm saying? But the narrative that he created, he told a great story. And so when you have that, plus stock does well, mostly because, or maybe not mostly, but at least to some part because it was engineered to do well. It is what it is. Maybe that's neither here nor there, to your point. The last thing, so that was your closer. The last thing I'll say is this. Apple was like everything to Steve Jobs. He cared, so it was his baby. He worked with Tim Cook for 13 years before he handed the reins over. That doesn't mean that decision is necessarily going to be the right decision. But I say that only to say that if you believe that Apple was so great, and he was the guy that would tear people apart when he did not see them being excellent, that there must be some reason, something that he saw in Tim Cook, and he's certainly not like rolling in his grave and regretting the decision after he saw the next 15 years. If you showed this to Jobs for the next 15 years, one, he would say, why don't you do more? Probably just because who he is. But he would not be regretting the decision for sure.
In real time, he seems to have done an incredible job. I don't give a shade.
Yeah, there you go.
That's all
right. Okay.
Yeah, so let's talk about oversaving, overinvesting. This is a huge problem. The problem with that statement is it's a very large problem for a very small percentage of people. Okay? There are two ends of the spectrum when it comes to investing that I see frequently. The largest challenge is people don't save at all and they don't invest. And whether that's because of their life circumstance or 1,000 other things, it's just like they don't get in the habit of putting 10 to 15% of their money away from an early age to use in the future. The reverse is the people that do get in that habit and in some cases blindly fall in love with that habit and forget to live life. So there's two aspects. The one we want to talk about is this oversaving piece when your net worth becomes fairly large, and how additional lifestyle tightening actually does not matter at all in certain circumstances.
As a percentage of your total worth, you're saying.
Yeah. But even more so to that, like the foundation of this is, I would argue saving 15% for retirement is a really good decision for 90+% of people. And I would argue in certain cases, saving between 15 and 25% can be good, et cetera, et cetera. The people that are trying to save 40 to 60% of their take-home pay, that's a bad idea for a ton of reasons. But we'll stick to this piece. So this piece breaks down a saver who wants to get to $2 million, and they want their wealth to be $2 million, right?
Yep. And
it runs two scenarios, one where they save $25,000 a year and one where they save $15,000 a year. And if they start with $0, saving that extra $10K, so saving $25,000 a year instead of $15,000 a year, gets them to their net worth goal 6.5 years earlier. Okay, so that's a good thing. So if you think all your dreams are fulfilled when your net worth is $2 million, you want to get there as quick as possible, you can afford to put $25K aside, great, go for it. The point that this makes is once you get to a certain wealth threshold, and it doesn't really matter, say that's $1.5 million. So say you already had $1.5 million and you're starting. What happens with your investments is they spit off tons of growth potential and income and everything else. And so the amount of cash you actually put into the bucket is only supplementing the cash that your portfolio naturally throws off. This goes back to The Richest Man in Babylon, all the other books that talk about, well, the goal to your financial life is to get your coins to make some more coins to make some more coins, right? Because then the first penny you earn turns into a whole army of pennies 30 years later, and it's effectively free money. If you can articulate this better than me, go ahead.
I'll say different things. I don't know if it's articulating it better.
Go ahead.
I think one point that you raised here is like, what's the goal you're after? That changes a lot of this math, because if you say, I actually want to leave money for my kids to continue growing, to have generational wealth, then that changes a lot of what we're saying. Because in the end, and what some of the comments in here are saying is, if you put $1,000 aside, and let's say that $1,000 is to the S&P average, if that $1,000 doubles every 7 or 8 years, you're still going to have $2,000 for every $1,000 you put in every 7 or 8 years. So just do that forever, and generations to come will be great. That is different than when you have a specific goal like this one, which is I want to get to $2 million. And the biggest change that from what I know about Ramit, and I think what he says here, is he talks about having what he calls a rich life, which doesn't necessarily mean money. It means whatever your definition of richness is. That could be spending time with family. It could be travel. It could be whatever. And so here he's saying, if what you're saying is $25,000 a year is what you're not going to spend, there's a certain period of time. There's a certain period of time where investing that can make sense. Before, in this example, you hit the 750K-ish mark. He goes, even after that point, you can say, I'm still not going to spend that 25K, but now your equation starts to change. Now you say, how do I give it away maybe charitably? How do I maybe support my kids or grandkids in a different way? Like, just think about it differently and don't hop into the mechanics of I invest 25K a year, because at some point that the return on that, from a return on something else, from a rich life perspective, not from an investing perspective.
Well, and then even when certain folks get to their original goal, they will revise the original goal, or they'll be so set in their ways with what I do is I save 25K that even if they don't need that for their lifestyle, they may continue to invest that when it would be a much better option to give that to a charity. Not a charity in 30 years, a charity today that can help your community right now.
Yep.
What I'm saying is, you talked about generational wealth maybe to pass down to kids or grandkids. It's great. But I think what most parents want is their kids to develop these habits, for their kids to have the skill set that allows them to make the $2 million if that's what they choose to do. And then as soon as they have that skill set, you can solve the money equation. And then people still get so hung up on only the money equation. It's hard. I'm not claiming this is an easy challenge. Yeah. But so your point, though, to dive back into the very specifics, your point here, if you save $25K a year, once you get to that 750,000 mark, then the difference to get from 750,000 to 2 million on average is only a year, right?
Yeah.
So once you reach that threshold, it would make a lot of sense to take an additional 10K out of your investing bucket, put it into your spending, charitable giving, whatever bucket you want, because there's almost no ramifications. And hopefully, if you spend that money wisely, it enriches the lives of you and the people you care about. I've seen this in my own investing life. I can't claim that I do it perfectly, but it is really amazing when you get enough pennies working for you that you go, oh, wow, the built-in capital actually is doing more in terms of contributions than I'm doing in contributions because it's been working for me for years and years and years.
Thought about this with a couple different, all in the world of investing, with a couple different accounts. There's like the standard brokerage style accounts where there's the amount from that I've like modeled out, in the spreadsheets that we put in every year. But I know mathematically that I'm like, it doesn't make as much of a dent anymore, just like with this thing. The other one that's really interesting, and to me it's actually more interesting because it's capped, is with IRAs. Because that one to me is also where like you can only put in a certain amount. And since the IRA grows at a percentage that is higher than the cap that I can put in, it starts to be like is there actually a better use for that too?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's that one's kind of fascinating to me. I haven't changed anything for it yet, but it is really interesting.
So my recommendation, my homework for the listeners is to spend some time thinking if you're oversaving. Again, it'd be a small percentage of the population. Yeah. But if you're oversaving, I think it's actually a huge problem. And there's much better. If the goal of life, I hope no one thinks, even on an investing podcast, that the goal of life is to have the biggest bank account at the end. I truly hope that's the case. Think you could make a correction there.
Sucky is that is the goal of life. And I know I'm never going to have it. So what is that like? What does that do? What does that do for my psyche?
Which is why it's not the goal of life.
Yeah, I'm completely joking.
Oh my goodness! I want to pull something out of my fishbowl that's a brief, just brief. You know exactly where I'm going with this. There's been a few Polymarket scandals this week. I'm so shocked. U.S. soldier may be going to jail for betting on the removal of the Venezuelan president, and I don't know if this person will end up in jail, but there's video of some French dude standing with a portable hairdryer. We need to talk about this portable hairdryer. Have you seen the video of the guy manipulating the weather markets?
Okay. I haven't.
I don't know how he pulls this off because I've actually seen the video, but he just walks up to the weather reader, which is only about 6 feet tall, which should have red flags in the first place. It's probably not the most accurate weather reader, but he walks up and sprays the thing with a hairdryer for like only seconds, verifies that the temperature spikes and leaves. What I'm referring to here is on Polymarket, you can bet on the highest temperature in a certain city on a certain day. Some guy literally waited. He waited for the temperature to spike for the day, and the temperature was heading down. Yeah. So it was clear that the highest temperature in Paris at this point was 18 Celsius, right?
Because in the past, yeah.
He drives over to the airport, parks, has some portable battery, I assume, tied to a hairdryer, walks over. Well, so first he makes a small bet on Polymarket for an outcome that seems impossible, right? Because it peaked at 18 degrees Celsius and is headed down. He walks over to the unguarded weather station, points his hairdryer at it, gets it to go to, I think he needed 22, collects a massive check, and leaves. And let me just read you the Polymarket terms and conditions, a few snippets, Dougal. Terms of service say transactions are irreversible and non-refundable. There's no systematic refund policy for fraud. What's interesting is within the past 12 months, there is some more language in the terms and conditions about what is fraud and that you can't use insider information. I just end up really confused, Douglas, because you listen to the CEOs of these prediction markets tell you that prediction markets are so important because you need a clear guidance of the truth, right? With presidential elections, you need people to put their money where their mouth is.
Yep.
Which effectively means you want insiders to bet on outcomes because you want the truth to come through. But there's no recourse, right? The crypto transactions that settle, even if they're in a fraudulent way, and this is two different, the U.S. soldiers, the outcome is the outcome. The outcome's not fraudulent. I guess that's technically true with the Paris airport as well. The temperature in Paris, according to that weather station, which was spelled out in the betting conditions, did go to 22 degrees Celsius.
It did.
This is bad. Like, it's bad on so many fronts.
It feels dumb to me. That's what I don't mean.
How so?
The person that took the hairdryer, I think, is a genius.
I agree.
This to me that's absolutely genius. I'm just saying for the markets, for the market in general. Why are people betting on that? I don't mean for the people doing it. Like, why is that on? How is that proof that this is the future? Prediction markets are important.
It's on there because Polymarket makes money on every trade.
No, okay, sorry.
I don't know, and I have not spent much time researching. I don't think punishment for either, even the U.S. soldier, is really. I think Polymarket's idiotic for having betting markets on these things.
This is what I'm saying.
I would not bet on these things. But the people that do, you have to understand, is subject to manipulation. You have to understand that people know more than you. I don't think anyone should go to jail. I think people should just kind of sit back and laugh because it's a gimmick.
It's speculation
that you don't have control over. And gosh, the hairdryer guy is brilliant. All right. So this is so funny.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say that, let's say that you know that it's the odds thing. You know that there's a higher chance than what the market is saying, the Polymarket saying that it's going to happen. But you don't know it's 100%. Like even with the soldier.
Yeah.
You don't know that it's 100% chance. You know, it's kind of like.
I mean, the rumor is he like placed the bet on the helicopter traveling there or something. There's no guarantee that mission is successful.
Yeah. It's like if I was holding a die and that die had only 5s and 1s on it. That's it. And you on Polymarket, you say that there's a 20% chance that I'm going to roll a 5. And I'm looking at this die and I go, well, there's only 5s and 1s on this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it's actually more like a 50% chance this is about to happen. Is that okay that I make that bet?
I mean, I just feel like what I hear from those leaders is they talk out of both sides of their mouth. Yes, we want Douglas to make that bet because it'll make the prediction market more accurate. But no, you're not allowed to do insider trading effectively.
Yeah. So how do I do it without betting?
So then it's just a bunch of speculation. Okay, this actually for me goes to why I think it goes back to me questioning certain aspects of crypto. Remember a year ago when everyone said, "Oh, stablecoins are the future"? People still say that, by the way.
Yep,
and stablecoins are great at cross-border payment transactions, so that's great. And they said Walmart will have their own stablecoin so they can control their ecosystem, and Amazon will have their own stablecoin. Polymarket doesn't have their own stablecoin. It almost doesn't matter. If Visa or MasterCard were in charge of these markets and Visa or MasterCard decided that you were robbed, Visa or MasterCard would give you your money back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just continue to see, I don't know why this example, because really the problem with this is the speculation is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The speculation can be manipulated. But I still see the value of that neutral third party in the middle of a transaction like this, where there could be fraud, as worth every penny that you pay them. I could be the only one. But
if you want this to scale, you have to have something like that. It has to be trusted. I don't see another alternative.
But Polymarket can't. There's no path that I'm aware of where they could.
Not
because
on their own.
Polymarket is built on crypto so they can skirt U.S. financial regulations where you're not allowed to bet on war, right?
Yeah.
So I guess if you're a Polymarket prediction market enthusiast, you realize that there is no protection for you at all. And when these transactions settle, they settle. The potential third market could be someone like the U.S. government who puts a U.S. soldier in jail and then takes his crypto back. But it's never going to be Polymarket or another company that provides protection for you. It's problematic.
Yeah. In the end, it kind of feels like if you ignore everyone else, this dude bet on himself. And I believe that everyone in America should bet on themselves.
USA.
Okay, last thing in the fishbowl, USVC. So people are likely familiar with AngelList, I imagine. AngelList, which came out, 15 plus, almost 20 years ago. It started off as this place that you can go and find companies to angel invest in. So as a company, if you're looking for investors, you can put your startup on there. It becomes a marketplace for angels to find your startup. It's great. USVC is going to be, I think it's not out yet, but it's going to be something that provides retail access to venture capital.
It's kind of out. They've already taken people's deposits.
Oh, they have? Okay, I didn't see that. They have. Yeah. So if you think about things that we've talked about in the show a lot and you've likely seen out there, you're like, how do I get access to OpenAI? But earlier, we've talked about Y Combinator funds, all this kind of stuff. This is something that is saying we are going to provide that access to the retail investor. So things that you cannot get on your own, we provide access to. At a high level, I think that's interesting. Here's the debate that I'd like to have with you, and we can give more detail if folks want more if you think folks could use more detail. But here's the thing I really want to debate with you. So the fees on this are high. If you are providing a scarce good, where's the line of where you say that something is usurious or fair because this is something you can't get elsewhere?
I have so many thoughts. One, okay. I've never seen it is incredibly rare, probably like 1%, where someone has the ability to charge a high fee and they choose not to. It basically never happens. So I don't fault people for doing that. You mentioned there's a supply and demand equation. Financial Times broke down private listings of Anthropic shares for their $350 billion valuation at two banks, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. Goldman offered their high wealth clients those shares with 1.25% fee, carried interest of 17.5% if the returns reached at least 8%. Morgan Stanley offered the exact same shares from the exact same funding round with a 1% fee and no management or carried interest. Okay. To me, that's incredibly interesting. A lot of these wealthy individuals bank with both of those groups. Like the same people got the same offer with a drastically different fee structure. I own some Anthropic shares. It's about 1% of my portfolio. I bought this in an entirely different way.
That's how big that was. That's a huge stake.
I got there in an entirely different way. I don't know if we're even going to talk about that, but I can tell you I didn't pay any fees. The problem with all this stuff is basically it comes back to one word. It's slimy. It's icky. It does not feel right. The problem with the AngelList fund is they pretended like the big slides say 1% fee. And then the fine print says 1% fee on some stuff. Then we place stuff with other stuff that charges a 2.5% fee. We pass that down. I don't know that that's good podcasting for us to explain like this fee and that fee and everything else and how some of the money they're raising is effectively going to sit in cash and some of it's going to go to investments that they've already made. Some of those investments are ramping and probably really exciting, and some are effectively laggards where that fund, that the name of that private company might be something that was exciting 5 years ago that now can't raise the next round. Like, this is just packaged garbage, it seems, when I think what people really want is one or two companies. Like, they want to own SpaceX at a reasonable valuation, or they want to own Anthropic at a reasonable valuation, not the Wild West of whatever this is. And I think this is a real problem with the fact that companies are IPOing so much later. We've talked about this before. I'd love to own Stripe at a reasonable valuation. Their most recent funding round is not a reasonable valuation, sadly. I'd love to own a few other private companies that should have been public back when they were worth $100 billion, that are now talking of going public at $1 trillion, which puts you at one of the 15 most valuable companies in the world. I think that's really what's going on here, and everyone's jumping in to charge fees on it and adding complexity, so my long ramble here is just, this is not a good investment for 99.9% of people, even though it sounds exciting. It sounds like, I want to own X stock. I want to own SpaceX. This is a great way to do it. Minimum's only $500. I don't need to be an accredited investor. Great, you're getting ripped off on fees. That's all that's happening.
Yep. And it's hard to understand exactly the impact of that. I ran some quick math, and this math is going to be wrong. And if you think that it's like so wrong, then I'll just stop, because I was trying to do it quick and dirty. But looking at these fees, it's roughly a 6% like fee structure just on outside of performance, roughly, something like that. Then you have the 20 to 30% carry. Average, let's just say it's 20% a year that you're paying in fees. And it's more complicated than that to run this out. But looking at that, if you assume that, you have to assume, in order to map to the overall average of the S&P 500, which, like, not what it's done over the last decade or so, but I put 10%, which is like a little bit higher than the average. If you assume S&P 500 is 10% and that's in a Vanguard fund, so you basically have no fees, you'd have to get to almost like about 40% a year is the base level assumption to match what you would end up getting for the S&P 500. Again, I don't know if that 20% is too loosey-goosey, and that number rings true for, like, it doesn't feel wrong to me. The 40% number, like, doesn't feel wrong as to what you'd have to assume at a base level.
I think we jumped ahead. What's actually in this fund? Fees are high, and we both got so fired up about fees that we didn't even talk about it. So, because I glanced briefly. Here's 7 companies in the portfolio, if I'm reading this correctly. XAI is 20% of the company. Caruso is 5%. Anthropic is 2.6%. Sierra Technologies is 2.6%. OpenAI is 1.6%. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Even more outrageous, the way this is branded is you get to own Anthropic. Anthropic is 2% of this portfolio. and according to this, only 43% of their capital is deployed. So they want to invest in the next thing, right? So you don't even know what they invest in next, and if it's hot garbage.
The next part of, I'm going back to fees for a second, but I'm tying it into what you're saying. The next level that I go with fees, and this is, as we've talked about, when I was looking at one of those YC funds, and sorry, listeners, you've heard me talk about this a couple times. When I was looking at one of those YC funds, the biggest thing for me was I was looking at the fees, looking at net returns, and said, so you are basically going to give me what I get outside of this, except it will be illiquid. That's the part that I want to throw back in here. So let's just imagine for a second that my 40% number is roughly right. That's what you have to get a year. Mm-hmm. On top of that, this is not to your point around the individual items that are in there, but it's the type of investments that are in there. You are investing in illiquid, like the shares that you own themselves are not liquid, and that those illiquid shares are investing in other things that are also illiquid. So,
and investing in other things that have their own fee structures.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's where, when I was talking about that 6% number, because you have the fees that the fund charges, but then there's assumed a range of fees that what they invest in also have, because they're saying they're going to invest in individual companies, they're going to invest in venture capital firms, like there'll be LPs as well. And so you end up with the doubly, triply fund feed situation that is illiquid. And so you need really high returns. Like if the 40% basis that I'm talking about here is roughly right, then you have to say, how much more money do I need to be illiquid? Because if I'm investing in a Vanguard fund, that's roughly the same. You can just sell it tomorrow if you need cash. This, you have to wait. And so if 40% is the rough, then you have to be like, actually, I need like 50, 60% a year. And that starts to...
It's amazing. It's so much worse than I expected, because I glanced at the fees and said I wasn't interested. But if only 44% of capital is deployed, this is like buying. It's like buying something that's going to sit almost 60% in cash, which, the returns on cash aren't great. And them charging you 2 to 3% fees on it and not being able to redeem it when you want.
So the cash is zero then.
What?
So cash ends up being zero because you're...
Oh, yeah, because it's in by fees.
Yeah.
So this is like giving someone $100 bill and being like, 2 cents of that goes to the company I'm excited about. I'm assuming people are excited about Anthropic right now. That on their thing, they say XAI is acquired, which it is, by another Musk company. I mean, this is hilarious. Like, talk about financial gaming of stuff. Anything related to XAI is hilarious. And so they get to hold your $100 and do whatever they want with it and get rich off of it.
It's smart for them.
It's really rough. It's really worse than I anticipated. My larger point that I don't want to get lost in the shuffle is I basically never see people add complexity to investing, layer on fees, and it be worth it. It happens occasionally. Some of the great VCs in Silicon Valley have incredible track records.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the YC stuff, some of the benchmark stuff, etc. But all the stuff that's packaged through Wall Street and sold back to your typical American, I don't think I've seen it done well.
That's all I got to say on that.
I expected there to be some positive.
Well,
I can't find it.
I will say the positive is you can't get access to this. The average person can't. So that is, if it matters to you and if you want to roll the dice to say, like, I actually cannot get into Anthropic and OpenAI and all these other companies, then this is a way to do it.
No. Anthropic, yes, they need some compute right now. And yes, they just signed a deal with Google back at the $350 billion valuation. But Anthropic on the private markets is trading for valuations close to $900 billion to $1 trillion. If Anthropic is in that range, it could, if it becomes the largest company in the world, that's only a 5x. To pay these fees for 5x...
I didn't say it's a good investment. You just said, is there anything positive
about this?
It certainly doesn't feel net positive to me. I can tell you that much. It feels very net negative. But I was just trying to say something positive.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
So rough. Do you have anything to cheer me up at the end of the show? That was rough.
No. Have you turned on the news? No, nothing.
All right. We'll see you all next week. SkippyDouglas.com for everything related to the show. And that's it. Peace out.
Thank you.